Hello, everyone. I want to explain one last time. I don't know if I haven't really ever in depth explained how the word worked in me. And then it's not over. The work's not over. Gave me what I needed, and I grow with it. I'm just gonna try. It's so, when you're so far from the minds, of confusion, the indoctrination, when that's been so far from you now, over 2 years, you've taken in so much that few has heard. Not only what was given to me in spirit, but what I was made to be able to see beneath the letter. And that, and it's so hard to know how to explain. And I haven't even been to the Old Testament hardly at all. But there's things to go back to look. See, with those carnal eyes, you could only hear bits and pieces. Maybe you could hear the voice crying out, but you couldn't make out what was being spoken. And now there's no way, these things cannot be explained. Now that I was grounded, and I gotta stop. I have tomatoes and bananas, and I keep letting my fruit rot because nobody wants to eat it. I buy the fruit and then it just sits there and rots. But and then you get fruit flies. I hate those little things. But I'm gonna try to see. There's so much because your carnal eyes can't perceive the spirit. You have, for all the parables, all the stories that you've read. And there's so much more, whether history or not, is what's in there is to learn from. Whether this thing spoken had happened, or whether it was only writ, it's to learn from it, whether it's a parable or true history. It's to learn the message. And I haven't even, like, so many of the messages, I haven't, the stories from the Old Testament, I haven't went back to read again. It's only when, some things just come when a thought, or you'll hear something spoken, and understanding will come. But to go and actually read that story again, with spiritual eyes, now you can hear. Before you had a distorted, your hearing was, this is really hard to explain some things. What I speak, I know is truth. When I make a video, when I do a comment, but sometimes there's just so much to everything. Sometimes it's hard to put an understanding across. In words, in a comment. And that's why I know this work, why I say it's still, it's not finished in me. I still have to gather, more has to be gathered and understood. So I can see I have the pieces. The truth has been given. I am grounded in truth. And that this truth is the eyes that I look through. It's knowing and understanding these things that makes you able to see all the rest and to rightly put it together. But it has to be presented to you again. Like by someone speaking something on a video, or I read or something, I just ponder, something comes to me. That's presented again, and then it's like, oh, and Nothing is no longer hid once you have eyes to see. But what I've just in to make that clear, whether a history or parable, in any writing really, it's what is the meaning of the writing. You know, what is the moral of the writing? What did you take from the writing? What can you be gathered from the writing? It's just so big, and words can't explain these things. And some, if you try to just say it, it's because those minds out there, every single mind out there, everyone that's going to hear, unless they're ready to hear. You know, they're exactly where I went through all that. As this stuff was presented, I had to allow it. You have to let yourself hear the truth. You've been made to block out the truth. You've been told everything contrary to the truth. You have been made against the truth, and now you have to allow. And that's where faith steps in. And it's not faith only believing this. Faith is just having an assurance in you, a belief that somehow this is all going to work out. You know, you're going to trust, although you don't know all things, but there's a true faith, which is the faith that I had, that I don't even know where I got it from. It just has been with me my whole life, as far back as I can remember. And then there's the faith that man teach. And there's just so many things. And you know, I still have until I understand some things fully, I can't see how certain things are worked. I cannot look. I don't know why I want to look over here. Camera is just really not good. It makes you want to look this way because you're on this side, but the camera's over here, and it's just really awkward. I don't know how I can make myself want to. How is that? That is so weird. It was learning the language. You know, I had eaten a book, and I've told you how it worked. And then when the time came and everything began to be revealed, understood, epiphanies, however long that lasted. And that was washing me with truth, washing me with the word of truth. And then it took me till that process, I didn't understand what was happening. And then even when I began to hear how words was used in the Greek, because I follow the story, and if you're following the story, you can see, you know what's being spoken, so you kind of can make out these words. But it took a while because it's not what comes through the letter. There's so much. There's Greek letter that there's no way to translate these things in English. If there was no way to translate certain words in English, what do you think you're only receiving a part in that translation? Because it wasn't possible to translate these things. Even if man could have translated it, it's just, you only know what I'm speaking if you've seen, or if you've perceived these things in spirit. But then, so when I did this for probably a year before I actually realized I'm learning the language, showing me how it's kind of like, it's like there's a hidden message for those who are able to hear it, to read it, to read again. And I know this is what my life is for, to this is my life. This is all that I care about. And that's why I'm going to share my story with, unless you've heard my story with my legal troubles and what's happened. Even this time, I truly didn't do wrong because I did it for the right reasons. You have to have an ill intent before something is, and there was no intent. I was doing it so I could better myself to get off of my Suboxone. But you really, to appreciate everything I went through for the legal system and what they're doing to me now, you'd have to know the other 2 times. I'm staying strong. All I want to do is break down, but I can't. The person you see strong, I'm not strong for myself. Now that weakness in me has turned to a strength in an anger, but my anger is righteous. Because my anger is to those who don't care, who do wrong, my anger is to the corruption and the corrupt, and and the authority of this world, who you have to hear my story to know. I was numbered with the transgressors, and I wasn't a transgressor. And even this thing I did, that was between me and the Father. I thought of this 2 months, and I did something against myself. The only one I transgressed was myself, but I did it for the right reason. There's many, and also here and me having to go through this drug and alcohol counseling. I don't even do the drugs that I'm supposed to do. That's the whole point I'm trying to get off. I've been prescribed drugs, and I'm so against them. Xanax is for my anger, for my anxiety and panic disorder. Because I'm not this strong person. I used to fall apart. There's a lot more that you don't see in my story. But, the Xanax that I was prescribed, I did not want to get on anything. I did not want to be dependent. That's why I did not do them. Not to mention they knocked me out. It just, I was prescribed 2 Xanaxes, 2 small ones, 2 5s, 3 times a day. And I, just did one here or there, but it would knock me out. And I knew, even if I did, a smaller piece of it, I thought I'll just do them when I'm, having a panic attack or something. And, but I didn't want to get, the whole point, I didn't want to get on anything that I would be a dependent on. And that's one reason I quit alcohol 8 years ago. And here I am having to go only so they can make money off of me. When I was so, waiting for probation to end because it really threw me. Here I was in every thought in the Word. And, that day it just everything turned out, put me back in, I had no time for this trouble. It just took me away from my true work. And I thought it's almost over now just so they can make money on me. They want to keep me maybe 6 more months on probation just so I can give them $30, $90 a week. Just so someone else can make money. And I think that is really wrong, that they can have authority. Did the crime. At least this time I did the crime. I've done, everything I'm supposed to do these last 6 months. And now, just so this other company can make money, other whatever they are, I said, do you really think, when I went to have my, and I talked to him a little bit, let him know how I feel about everything, and we was talking, and he was acting like he understood me. And then he's like, well, Miss Tippett, we think it's probably best if you're going to have to do IOP. I said, what? And he said, yeah. He said, I'm seeing a pattern here. I said, where do you see a pattern? I built this store, had another company, and got another business. Where And that 8 years ago, although I didn't do the thing, well, however, over 8 years ago, I guess it's been 8, 9, more than 8 years ago, even though that's one of the things that I didn't do, but I paid for it, for what someone else done, even though I was the victim that day. But I said to him, I said, last trouble I got in was 8 years ago. Where do you see that there's a pattern? Where's the pattern now? And I said, you really want to stand there and tell me you think that I got a drug and alcohol problem after what we just talked about? And he couldn't answer, but his face, I can't remember what he said, but his face, it was like he knew. This is just what they do. They put you through the crap. That's just all none of those answers and the questions, none of that conversation matters, because they're going to make you, because they can get that money from you. And I think it is very wrong that they can have the authority over people. That now if I don't live up to what they say I need to do, I could go to jail. My time should be done. It's really messed up. But if I have to go through this, I will help some people there. I know that. But when I'm done, when that chain they got me is off of me, they need to stay out of my way, because I'm going to be a rabid, a raging beast on them when I'm done with it. And no, that's not no threat to your physical. It's your way, your little scheme. Because I was getting ready to come out with all these things before, from the other times, because I figure if they've done me wrong, imagine all those other people. Imagine there's people in prison that are innocent right now from that same cop before. This is before. I have a story to tell. And, see, every word of my mouth can be backed up. There was witnesses for all things. Witnesses people know that I'm not no judge. All I do is work. And how can they stand here and take someone who has bettered her neighborhood just from building her business? It would be an eyesore right now if I didn't do what I did, because no one could build it. Now it's newly remodeled, thriving. I have proved to be a productive member of society. How can they have this, and just, it's just wrong. But the thing was, I couldn't speak up. I meant the whole time to write to my judge after that. If I could, there's some words I can write, but I just couldn't bring myself to writing in my own defense. I couldn't bring myself to, I couldn't put my mind to it. So I just let it all go, and I was just hoping it would be over. And now I'm finding out, that they still can play with me and string me along a little more. And the only thing they're keeping me from is this. Is from the things that really matter. The one thing I don't have a problem with in this whole world is alcohol and drugs. And here, that's the one thing I should not need to be looking at all. But they're going to make me go through these things and it's just keeping me away from what I should be doing. Oh, God. Oh, sorry. I stay strong. But I'm not. Sorry. I don't want anyone else to have to go through some things that I went through, but it's got to stop what they can do. And I know there's still righteous judges out there, and, there's a few righteous out there. I don't know if that's the right word to call it, but if you see righteously, when you see wrong, here's one thing. When that probation officer, even, if someone sees wrong and they know it's wrong, you should be doing something to make it right. When that probation officer, even me or anyone, if you see that someone's been wrong, maybe you can't help him out, but maybe you can't make it. You don't have to make it harder. It's why are they making it harder for me? They're putting more on me. If it was just me I'm worried about, I wouldn't care. I could go do it. It's just keeping me away from it. And it really has interfered with me. Because every day I got to worry whether I have to go take that test. If I'm going to miss a test, and it's just a certain burden that's on me. And, sorry. What was I saying? But what it is, though, beneath the letter, what I've been here, it is been dissected. And that's your verses. And that's all that confusion. You've not heard the story. This is the gospel according to Matthew. Don't look at everything as a whole. That's the thing. Now, what I've been doing and taking in this and this and this is starting to hear the whole portion. Here, to be able to rightly put it back together. And then there's just, it's so hard to explain. Then you can go to look at the whole of what is the gospel according to Matthew. What is the gospel according to Mark? To look and really see. There's just, but because what didn't come through is where you're told everything. It's not what's in the letter. It's a whole other thing. Not the troubling one. Not the gospel that troubles you and keeps you in confusion. The true message that did not come through. What gospel? How many? And there's just so many that man just doesn't know what's in there. There be some that trouble you. What is these some that trouble you? Is talking about gospels. It was speaking of the gospel. Other people's versions of the gospel. That's the dissected one. The one that has kept confusion, kept everyone going. You don't know what's truly in the letter. And I can't. I don't know how to explain these things. All I can do is speak the word. The words didn't even come through. That so much meaning didn't even come through. So what is it that you received? You received a portion, just a part, just enough to keep you always searching. You know, those are the signs that you seek. Signs and symbols. A letter is a sign. It is a symbol. There's so much that man don't understand. And it's just, there's no way I can explain how and what I see beneath the letter. But it's what I know in spirit. That's what I know it here, and that's why I'm able to see it there, because that's what's there. Had I not known it, you have to know it first. You have to know the truth to recognize it. And I don't know, it's the part that I don't know how it was done. Was this just how it had to be done? Or was it just no matter what man done to it, they could not stop the truth. They could not stop the spirit work. Because the true would always remain true. And it is way more than what man has spoken. They spoke by what they perceived, what they was presented. They spoke without hearing all these things. They never heard the true message. They heard a distorted version of the message. And I don't know if anything made sense, but I do love you all. Bye for now.